Welcome to the podcast, A Drink with Derek. Follow comedian Derek Richards on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe to his YouTube channel and watch all episodes of the podcast. Now grab a drink and join your host, Derek Richards.
Hey, welcome to the podcast. It's A Drink with Derek. Derek Richards here in Las Vegas. And I am honored because as we are rolling into the start of what has got to be, I would say, the busiest sports betting time of the year anywhere on the planet as the NFL season is kicking off here. I thought I would get somebody with some brains to be on the other end of my my interview spectrum here. Jeremy Hines, who is with Metric Gaming, and I will have you explain exactly what you do. You guys basically create formats, templates. You create a sports book for an operation, correct?
Yeah. So we're a platform and service provider, B2B, B2C in some spots, and we handle all the nuts and bolts of your sportsbook operation. So if you're looking to put up your own money and want to take some bets, you come to us, and we get you set up with everything you need to start making that happen.
So if I wanted to run hypothetically a bookie operation, I could contact you, your company, Metric Gaming, and you could set me up.
Yep.
Okay.
And if you already have an existing sports book and you're looking for additional services, or you're just not happy with the ones that you have now, we do that as well. So we're a jack of all trades, as we say. Very customizable in our service compared to some of the other competition out there. So that's how I think we differentiate ourselves to the competition.
Well, you've got obviously a huge wealth of knowledge in regards to sports betting. But before we get into that, and before I start asking you the questions that I've been dying to ask somebody who's on your side of the industry, 3 random questions here for you, Jeremy Hines, that make absolutely no sense or don't tie into our interview at all, period.
All right.
3 random questions. Cauliflower pizza crust, is it tolerable or the creation of Satan?
The creation of Satan.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't get near me.
The air conditioning goes out in your car here in Las Vegas in the summer. This is the scenario. AC goes out in your car here in Vegas, summertime, which has been brutal this past year.
Yeah.
Do you, you're kind of tight on money. So you got AC goes out in your car. Do you, A, not get your kid braces to get the AC fixed? B, don't get your wife a birthday gift to get the AC fixed? Or C, screw it, fix the AC, and then get a divorce attorney?
Probably B. I'd say
Okay.
B. Yeah.
Your wife is a sweetheart. I've met her before. She is I could see her being totally cool.
Yeah.
Saying, you know what, sweetheart, let's not fry.
Yeah.
And we'll get something later. Okay.
Yeah.
And third question. Worst band in your mind ever?
Oh, wow. Worst band ever. Oh, golly. Worst band ever.
No wrong answer.
No wrong answer.
It is just your answer.
I don't know. All country music?
You wiped out an entire genre. Nicely done.
Yeah. I think I as much as I love whiskey and trucks as the next guy, I think it's I hear too much about it in our house. So the only good thing about country music is when it's on in our house, it means the house is getting cleaned. So
really,
I suppose that's the only good thing with country music.
You have your housekeeper,
wife
listens to country music.
Oh yeah,
man.
Like,
so far you're getting rid of her birthday gift, and you say as long as country music's being played, I know the house is being cleaned.
Yeah,
I think we should go back to you. I think we should go back to you getting into a divorce attorney, because this is not going to work out well.
If she catches wind of this episode, yeah, I might need one. Somebody, you got a sponsor? You got one that sponsors the show that you can hook me up with?
I actually do, which is VegasSportsAdvantage.com. They actually go ahead and provide picks for people. VegasSportsAdvantage.com. Go to their website. They had a very successful run the first week of college football. They were 21-3 on their picks, which was pretty impressive. I followed these guys religiously. Again, VegasSportsAdvantage.com. Now, your website, Metric Gaming. You build sports books. There's a million things that you can bet on.
Yep.
Such as like non-sports things. Have you ever wagered on any non-sports thing? Like you can bet on, presidential elections and stuff like that.
So I haven't, because in Nevada, we don't really get that luxury because the Nevada Gaming Commission are a bunch of, I won't say bad words about them, but they're very behind on the times. So Nevada, you don't get that luxury. However, outside here, you can. So, we were taking bets on presidential election just this last round. So Trump versus Biden, you can go, all the way down. I've seen books go all the way down the list and state by state, who's going to win the primary, who's going to win Republican, Democratic. So not only for the U.S., but like right now, I think Canada's getting ready for an election. So we offer a lot of markets on that as well. Liberal Party for them, UK as well, and
you can bet on a Canadian election.
Yeah.
Now, would that be the definition of a gambling quote unquote problem?
It depends on who you ask. I suppose if you find value in the number, there's no degenerate about it. Now, where the degeneracy comes in is with some of these other obscure markets. So betting on, the Emmys, who's going to win the Emmys awards. I've seen them like when Kanye and Kim Kardashian got married, how long their marriage was going to last. I think one I seen recently on an offshore book was first to remarry Bezos or Gates. You can bet on our financial markets. So will they be up or down on the week, the day? So there's a long list of things that you can bet on outside of the U.S.
That seems so bizarre to me here in Nevada that you can't bet on something like that, because we pretty much allow almost everything in this city/state. So the fact that you can't bet on elections, to me, just blows me away. That just seems like another revenue stream that the city is passing up on, or the state is passing up on.
Yeah, I assume it's to do with corruption.
No.
Nevada's not corrupt at all, and back in the day, I'm sure. So yeah, some of that stuff, people will bet on like WWE, and that's one thing that is, pre-planned, right? So if you got a hold of a script,
sure,
you could go off and have a wager, and
if you know who's going to win, you're going to win a boatload of money. How did you get into this? Did you study this? And because people don't understand, the science behind gaming is huge. I mean, UNLV has an entire program dedicated to gaming in the industry. So how did you personally get into doing this? Because this is basically, I mean, you're working involved obviously in software development and building platforms. So how did you get into doing this?
Yeah, so I didn't do any of that. I found a different way to get into it. And I was in retail pretty much right from high school. It took me all the way through my 20s. And from there, I kind of just got drained mentally, physically. A young stud like me at 25, 26, I was just like feeling the pressure. So retail game is really tough, overnights, throwing trucks, dealing with people. Oh my God, I would hate to be in retail these days because people are just assholes. So I like to bet sports, like kind of that was my little escape, I suppose, if you will. So just started betting, kind of just fell in love with the industry and what went into it. And then got fortunate enough that I bought a house when I moved to Vegas right after the '08 crash. So I was able to sell it for a chunk of money and just be able to walk away. And I wasn't married. We didn't have kids at that time. So it was just me and my fiance, and set some money aside for the wedding. So that way then I could, secure that, because we know that's what the wife wanted. And then just started applied for ticket writer jobs at the casinos, and landed at a company called Dom Best. And started at the ground as a junior trader, just traded games, put lines up, very basic stuff, and just worked my way up through that company. And as the industry kind of exploded a few years later, just really accelerated my career growth.
Now, you guys create the platform, and somebody else creates the lines for the games.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep. Yeah. So we do some in-house proprietary odds making. So around soccer, golf, horse racing. That's primarily our bread and butter. Otherwise, we let the market come out, set the lines. So, the guys down at Circa here in town, they do a great job of setting lines early in the week. A lot of offshore in Costa Rica, Pinnacle, BetChris. They're the ones that are setting the lines week to week. And that's because they've been doing it for so long.
Right.
Those guys have been doing it for 10s and 20s, 30s years. So we let them do most of the legwork, much like most of the industry does. And then we have feeds and provide those to our sports books from there.
Now, what does it? So your specialty field, you head up the Las Vegas team here for what exactly?
Yeah, so we have an office in the UK, and then we have an office here. And both we're managing a sports book. So there's a lot of things that people don't see that goes into managing a sports book. Everybody just sees like, oh, so and so took a huge wager and this or that. But there's a lot of things, much like any online tech company, things have to be teams have to be mapped to our feed providers. We're doing risk management, and then we're trading games. So as bets come in, we're adjusting our lines as our risk tolerance is needed. And then our guys here, we're involved in product work, so helping develop, what markets do people want to bet on.
Right.
Putting out additional content, going over, what our clients' websites look like and how well that, as a user, there's nothing more frustrating than trying to find like a bet. So we like to go in and see how difficult is it to find a certain market. A lot of our guys are bettors themselves, and they use that information to help better our product as well.
Well, now you say you guys go ahead and manage the lines to an extent as far as risk management's concerned. Now, when you say that, because you are, I open a casino, it's Derek's Casino, and I have my sports book. Mm-hmm. And it's, say, the Eagles -3 against the Cowboys. Now, when you say you manage the lines for risk management, what does that mean? So you're saying, so if $1 million comes in on the Eagles -3, it pings you guys.
Yeah, so
and then you will move the line accordingly to help out your client. Is that how that works?
Yeah. So if you've got a huge risk tolerance like that, and you take a bet, we have a bet ticker that comes in, and we see players in real time that are betting those games. So yeah, we're also watching the market. So in that scenario, if somebody comes in and bets that much on a -3. That's a key number in the NFL. So we might look at the market and see what everybody else is doing. Because if you move off of 3, then you're probably going to get the other side that's going to come in from a sharp group on the 3.5 or whatever. So we'll look at the market and we'll just adjust accordingly. So if you've got a super high risk tolerance, that 3 you might just go to from -110 to -120 or -125. Maybe you do put the hook on there to try and limit some of that risk on that side. So it's kind of a back and forth with the punters out there. They're trying to get one over on you, and you're trying to put up the most accurate number throughout the week.
Now, what's the difference between sharp money and public money. You always hear those. You always hear that conversation being discussed in sports talk radio.
Yeah.
Sharp money versus public money.
Yeah. So sharp money is probably not anybody that we know. Most of us fall into the public category of it. So sharp money are the guys that come in on, Monday morning, Sunday evening, and they're betting next week's NFL lines. Kind of, they're originators, right? They do their own modeling. They have their own power rankings for teams, and they say Pinnacle put up, Eagles -3. I make Eagles -4. So what they'll do is they'll bet into that market. So sharps are going to help shape that line early in the week. Now you're probably talking lower limits. So, they might be able to get maybe 500 on a side early in the week, overnight. Then as the week goes on, more sharps come in. Sharps can be on both sides as well. So they'll kind of have it out in the beginning of the week, but by Wednesday, Thursday, the lines are so tight in the NFL because it's such a high liquidity market that the public comes in and they're going to bet the worst of the lines. So, if you're betting Eagles -3 on Sunday and that game closes, Eagles -4, let's say, and it lands on, I guess that's a bad example, but if it lands like right on 3, you're going to win. If it lands on 4, all those guys that bet later in the week, they're going to push, right? I guess if you will. So that's where the sharp guys come in. They're the ones that find value in the number, and metric that we use, and most of the industry uses, is called expected value. So we call them plus EV bettors, if you will. At the end of the day, when that game closes, you're going to do it. We use a measurement that says, okay, they got it's a little bit tougher, I think, in point spreads, but a percentage better than what the closing line was. So that number can fluctuate, but more times than not, that number is going to be positive for them at the end of the week.
See, anytime somebody bets $1 million on a game, I bet with that person.
Yeah,
because I won that on somebody came in and put $1 million on the Eagles to win the Super Bowl against the Patriots, and I'm like, you know what? I'll risk a couple hundred.
Yeah.
This guy's throwing 7 figures on the Eagles. I think he knows something, and sure enough, it won. And then I think it was the same guy bet on the Astros, I think the next year in the World Series, and he won. And again, I rode his coattails. I firmly believe, now, correct me on this if I'm wrong, I think every game's fixed. I do. I am such a cynical douchebag, and I will say that this actually comes into play a little more when I lose, because I'm like, oh, clearly it's rigged. They saw my $100 bet come in. They know they don't want me to win this. But I mean, you see certain games, and Jeremy, you bet sports. I mean, there were a couple plays. I was watching the Ohio State Minnesota game the other night. There were a couple blatant pass interference calls that were not called.
Yeah.
And I sit there and I'll be at a sports book, I'll be at a bar, I'll be in my house yelling at my my little Dean Martin doll that I have in the corner. And I'm like, and I immediately go, check the ref's checking account.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the guy is mugged. I mean, his jersey is getting yanked and he's pulled to the ground, and the commentators are trying to play the PC route, and they go, well, the game gets a little handsy at times. I'm like, he was mugged.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the old saying, the refs put a call into Vegas, right, when they're reviewing the plays and stuff like that. I honestly think it's more just bookmakers have gotten sharper over the years. So more data is available. We're in obviously an era of technology where you can get anything you need at your fingertips. And now that sports betting has become legal across the U.S., the leagues have changed their stance on it as well, right? I mean, I can remember a couple years ago, Romo tried to have a fantasy football conference here in Vegas, and the NFL threw a knip about it. And now look at them; they're partnering with, Caesars and BetMGM. So the data's gotten stronger, but that's available to both sides of the counter. So I think that Ohio State game landed right on 14. Well, that line was anywhere from, I don't know what it opened, but it hung around 13, 13 and a half, 14. So depending on when you bet that game, you could have won, you could have pushed, or you could have lost. So again, to the sharp versus public side, guys that bet that game early probably got Ohio State at a much better number than the guys that bet it, Thursday right before kickoff.
Well, and people don't realize too that the amount of research that goes into this stuff done by you guys and by all these other handicappers and these other sharp bettors that, I mean, they will research referees, umpires, linesmen to see how people call games. Some guys, and you can literally find out, who was calling games when there was a bunch of pass interference calls called, and you can find out who calls the games tighter.
Yeah.
And who's a little more fast and loose and says, you know what? It's football. Let them play. Yeah. Same thing with baseball with strike zones. I mean, you can certain umpires have a bigger strike zone than others. And depending on who that pitcher is, I mean, that can totally sway how the game goes. And people don't realize, again, the science that goes behind that.
Yeah. Same with basketball. I mean, we obviously all know about the scandal, back in the day.
Right.
But I think Chris Paul against one of the refs in the finals was like 14 lifetime with that ref calling games. And, they ended up losing that series. But yeah, I mean, the amount of research that's out there, when I used to work at Don Best a few years back, we would do that. We would track referees. We did some integrity services as well. And we actually caught on to a ref that was drastically to the over on first half games. And we flagged that up to the league, and they actually took action on it because it was so outlandish. So everybody's kind of looking for a way. You can use refs, you can use weather. One that we used to use is around college football, a certain amount of humidity and temperature would lead to second halves kind of flying over the total. So we knew that guys would get tired in the second half. Defenses would be gassed much more. So the opportunity for big plays or bad tackles was going to be there. So we use that information to adjust our lines in game. Maybe bump the total up a point or two. And more times than not, data doesn't lie. Numbers don't lie. That's how I go about my betting. I probably couldn't really name a ton of players on like the Lions or the Red Wings, but I could probably make an educated bet just based off of data and be better than most out there.
Yeah, some of the people that I know that bet sports and are very successful at it have no interest at all in the game itself. They just pull up the numbers and they line up the two teams. And they're like, okay, statistically, this should happen. Yeah.
Sharps are betting numbers and not teams. They're betting the number. They're not betting the Browns. They're betting the +3 on the Browns or whatever it might be. And then they're not watching the game. They're cracking on to the next day. They have to get ready. Being a professional bettor is not a glorious lifestyle. It's a lot of work. You have to be disciplined, and if you are using data and you have your own models, then you have to be really good at making sure there's no breaks in your code, or everything's calculating correctly. So betting professionally, I would not want to do it. I learned that early. Some guys get lucky and I think are good and can just kind of pick winners, but you have to hit a pretty good percent. I don't know if you follow like the Super Contest or the Circa Millions, but you have to hit, a pretty good percent to beat those guys out there. So, hats off to them because they grind it out.
Well, and people don't realize too that you can go to a sports book, and if you're really, really, really good, and that's why these guys don't get the little rewards cards, because obviously the casinos can track your progress.
Mm-hmm.
And a casino can refuse your bet.
Yeah. Yeah,
And people don't realize that. I mean, you and I can walk in and you got 20 grand and you're like, I want to put 20,000 on the Lions.
Yeah.
I just wanted to hear what that would sound like coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Anyhow, but
Bumping
I can
down
walk
the
in there and if I say I'm going to put 20,000 on the Lions -2 against the Vikings, and the casino can go, no, I'm not going to take your bet. And there could be some chowderhead in line behind us who's going to bet 100,000 on the Packers versus the Buccaneers, and they'll take his money.
Yeah.
And there was somebody told me out here in Vegas one time. They said, you know what? They go, how did they put this? They said, somebody came by and they go, I don't trust your bet. I trust his bet. In other words, where they felt that you know what? No, because they look at your history.
Yeah.
And they know who you are in the casino. You're there every day. And all of a sudden they're like, all right, here comes Jeremy. He's got 20K.
Yeah.
And he's throwing it on the lines. Like, nah, I'm just not going to take your bet.
Yeah.
So people don't realize that. I mean, it's a lot more involved than, people coming out here to visit on vacation with a couple grand and throwing it on your favorite teams and think, whatever. This is how it is all the time. And that's just simply not the case.
Yeah. I mean, bookmakers are smart. Like, they have to make a profit, right? That's the business model. It's not, they have to make a percentage, and sports betting, you don't make a lot. Margins are very slim. I mean, if you're clearing 3-4%, I would say you're doing pretty good. But yeah, they definitely, from like the sharp, they hate the digital world because it is all tracked, like you said. Where back in the day, maybe if that bet was refused, you would just jump in line behind that guy and say, hey, can you put 20K on the lines for me after your bet? Right. Use a beard is how they used to say it in Vegas. So, now you're starting to see, are people using their wives or their girlfriends or their mistresses to sign up for accounts and bet for them so that they stay under the radar. But we are getting to, I think when you take a look at a book like Circa, they're trying to eliminate some of that from the industry. And it's going to be an uphill battle for them, but they, have said that they're not going to limit people and they're going to take every bet, and that's fine. You have to have a lot of liquidity into your market. So kudos to what they're trying to do. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I've got to clear a number. And if I don't, the suit upstairs is going to come down. And that's probably not a good sign.
That's not going to be a happy day for anybody. What is, in your estimation, from your expertise, what's the hardest sport to bet?
The NFL for sure. And then I would say probably, like the EPL. Those are probably the two toughest sports to bet on. You're not going to win.
EPL?
The English Premier League, so soccer over in the UK.
Gotcha.
Those leagues are very liquid. There's a lot of money in it. But by the time most people are going to bet those games, the lines are really tight. The market's really strong. You're not going to get a great number. And to clear, 53, 54% week in and week out, it's just not going to happen. So I would say, you're coming to Vegas, you want to bet the NFL, that's fine. You might get lucky and win a few, but if you try and do it long term, you are not going to win. So I would completely stay away from that unless you want to get into derivative type markets. So first halves, quarters. I'd stay away from player props because you win a few of those and they'll start to limit you as well. So there's other markets maybe that you can win at long term, but unless you're a professional, been doing it a while, good luck.
See, like those, I think the worst thing that's happened, especially for me, because I have a few cocktails in me and I start watching games and I've got the app on my phone.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the worst. Yeah. The cool thing was, I will say this, like in several, you have BetMGM app, you have the Station Casinos app. There's obviously William Hill. Yep. And like William Hill, you need to physically go and deposit money into your account. You need to hand them cash.
Yeah.
Which to me seems the most responsible way to handle this, because there's other apps where they go, hey, just hook up your debit card.
Yeah, we all know about that.
Heck yeah. When you're lit up and you're sitting on your couch watching the game with your buddies, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Cowboys got this.
Yeah.
Enter, dump $1,000 in the account. Here comes all the dumb decisions. So,
Yeah.
so to me, that's like, as soon as the apps came out, I'm like, oh man, this is taking it to a whole new level. For me to physically get my fat ass up and go to the casino, I'm like, okay, I'm making an investment.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to do that than it is for me just to whip out my phone and pull up the app, like I'd pull up Instagram.
Yeah. It's definitely, obviously, like, convenience is becoming the way. So Nevada's kind of a weird state when you look at the rest of the U.S. market. In that sense, you still have to, one, physically go down to a sports book and sign up. So that's your first step.
Oh, yeah.
So you make that investment, and then, when you piss away that first, $500,000, then it's very easy to be like, oh, Play Plus. Okay, I have my debit card right here. Fund it. So it's all a convenience factor. I don't like to go down to the Strip, and, that might have saved me money to not want to drive down to the Westgate or, some of the other properties down there. William Hill, they put all those kiosks and PTs. So that's a little bit easier than going down to like a William Hill book, because those are mostly all downtown now, and it's a pain in the ass to get down there, I think. So, that's
a huge pain. Yeah, the kiosks are also, PTs, which is a sports book chain out here in Las Vegas. There's a ton of them all over the city.
Yeah,
they have kiosks everywhere, and you can deposit money into that kiosk.
Yeah. But to withdraw, you need to go down to a physical book.
To a physical casino. They don't want to make that easy for you.
No, I go down to the old trucker spot here on Blue Diamond. They got a small little William Hill shop, and you can get in and out pretty quick. So that's my go-to when I got to take money out of them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What now? Have you ever been banned from any casinos?
No, okay. Nope. I usually conduct my betting and behavior pretty good in this industry.
Good for you. Now, what is the dumbest bet that the public can make?
Oh,
there's probably several.
There's some. Oh yeah. I would say, like, if you're in a casino, like, stay away from Keno. I think like the house edge is around like 30% for a Keno. 80 numbers, they pick out 20. You've got no chance. Drive out to California and play the lottery, I suppose, from that point.
Right.
000 roulette is becoming kind of more popular on the Strip.
And 000? I haven't seen 000 yet.
Yeah. That's by far probably the worst game to play, because the odds don't change, and you're now added in an additional number into the roulette wheel. So those are probably some bad bets in the casino. The worst bet.
What about from a sports bet?
Yeah, the worst sports bet you could make is the bet after you've lost, 3 or 4 games, and you're going into Sunday night and trying to recoup it all back. That's the worst sports bet that you can make.
Why are you targeting this to me specifically right now?
Because we all been there. The chase is a real bet. So many times I've watched buddies, go 2-4 during the day and then dump it all into the Sunday night football game, even though they didn't like anything all week. So that's by far the worst bet that you can make, the chase bet, I think.
See, now somebody told me that the parlays is a huge sucker's bet. They're like, listen, and my buddy put it best, and he said, look, he goes, if you're going to go ahead, if you want to bet a parlay so bad, he goes, take what you were going to spend on that parlay, say $100, and go, okay, spend $40 on, say, whatever, say the Patriots -3, and then put another $40 on, say you wanted to do the Patriots -3 and the over. Mm-hmm. Divide that bet in 2. Do $40 on the Patriots on the point spread, $40 on the over under, and then take 20 and shove that on a parlay. He goes, if you are so jonesing to get that parlay action, at least this way, listen, if the Patriots win and they cover the points, but they don't hit the over, at least it's sort of a wash.
Yeah. Yeah, I could agree with that a little bit. I think over 2 or 3 teams, you're not going to get the best odds that you should be for it. I think
Right.
2 teams, 3 teams at most, you can find some value in it. But what a parlay, all it is it's basically bet one. If that wins, you're taking the original bet and the winnings and rolling it over into the next game. So people
Right.
do it because they want to bet multiple games on at the 10 o'clock hour for an NFL. And they maybe just don't have the bankroll to make 5 or 6, however
Right.
many type of bets they want. So the parlay is a good way to kind of let the public enjoy multiple games, and that's what people want to do. They want to go to the sports book and watch all the TVs and have the Jets and the Cowboys, and they want to root for all these different things.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it depends on what you want to do. If you're just coming to Vegas and entertainment purposes, pretty much, and maybe you get lucky. Yeah, I mean, you could do half-point parlay cards. Those are probably your best value if you're going to go over 3 teams. A lot of those lines are kind of locked in on those parlay cards, so you can find some good numbers if there's some movement throughout the week.
Well, and teasers.
Yeah.
Which are, I mean, I get amused by those where it's okay, minus or plus 6 points over here, minus or plus 6 points on the over under, and people think, how can I possibly lose this?
Oh yeah.
Do I get my ass kicked on those?
Oh yeah.
I lose on those more than I have a less winning percentage on those things than I did asking chicks out in high school.
Oh yeah. There's plenty of times that, the Lions are 7, against the Steelers. Well, I'll just tease them up to 13.5. No, it never works out. Same with teasing down. Like, I could make the Patriots from a -3 to a +3. Never tease through 0. It's just another way to get you in. I mean, most books probably hold above 10% on parlays and teasers each and every week. So it's just a money grab. Well, as a bookmaker and a bookie, you'll take it all day. You'll take all those bets all day long.
Sure.
Even, $10 here, $20 here, that stuff adds up over time. And you can hold just a great percentage on those bets.
What does it take to make a line move on a game? How much action needs to happen on a particular game for a line to move? And to explain it to the layperson, say we're looking at Buccaneers -6. And now all of a sudden I go to the sports book and now it's Buccaneers -4.5.
Yeah, so kind of like we were talking earlier, sharps are going to do that. So it could be, if you bet that game, Monday morning, let's say, and you're a sharp better and you help books kind of shape the line, you might only bet, 250, 500 on that game on Monday, and they might move it, a half a point or a point. Just depends on the bookmaker that's taken that sharp action and how much they respect that person's information. That's what it is. It's information to the bookie.
So it's not necessarily money.
It's not necessarily money. No. I mean, if you like to your example of, a guy walking into BetMGM on Thursday afternoon and wants to bet $1 million, they might take it at 6 and not move the number.
Interesting.
Yeah, if they know that player and they're a casino player, let's say, and he gambles just as much on the blackjack tables, they might just take that bet and go about their business. If you're a sharp guy and go in, and you bet a max bet, that might get a notice on a bookmaker, and they might move it, whichever way. So yeah, if all of a sudden sharp guys started betting the Cowboys, that line could easily go kind of down and down. I think we saw it a little bit last night with the UCLA game. There was a lot of ticket counts and money on LSU, but the sharps were all on UCLA, and it kind of drive the line. They get down towards 3 where
because it was UCLA +3.5 at one point, and then I saw the line move to, it almost got to the point where it was UCLA plus 1.5.
Yeah, I'm not sure where
on some books, but it was. Yeah. I mean, that's a dramatic 2 points is a big move.
Yeah. It's the beauty about college football is that you got to factor in that variance a little bit. But just because like tons of people are betting LSU doesn't always make the line move. It's the sharp guys that are going to move that line week in and week out.
So you know what makes me think that every bet's rigged or every game is rigged? Only because, and I just say this because it seems like football would be so easy to manipulate. For example, you can, if you sit there and I'm not saying you're trying to bribe like a Tom Brady. I'm saying you go after, a lineman, a guard or a tackle. And you go, look, I got $500,000 going to go into an offshore account in your mom's name. I've got the over-under is, listen, you guys can win the game. I don't care if you win. I just don't want you winning. I just don't want all these. I don't want it to be over 44 points.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden, your team's down there. These are the scenarios that I play in my head when I'm watching my bets lose, Jeremy.
Yeah.
So, and all of a sudden you see like this tackle that has been money the whole season. And all of a sudden he just kind of floats this way and misses a block. That just seems like that's wicked easy to manipulate.
Yeah.
Does this go through your guys' minds when because I know you guys are all obviously fans and you're watching games and you sit there and you go, oh, come on. Really?
Yeah.
It's ideal weather. Obviously human error obviously happens. I'm not saying that that's completely out of the realm, but when you see something that looks so, oh, look, I went down. Oh, and now this guy comes flying through and drills the quarterback and it's a 15-yard loss and now they've got a punt.
Yeah. I think there's probably, if you were going to rig, games, I think you'd look at the collegiate level. I think it can be done there. I think football's a hard one because it's such a team sport that even if you got to an offensive lineman,
right,
they're the one. They're not really putting the points up. Now, to your point, they could miss the assignment, let a few more sacks in, or whatever it might be. But I think if you look at basketball, maybe even baseball, if you got to a college kid and said, "Hey, here's $500,000. Make sure you miss a few extra shots," they can chalk that up to just having an off day, right?
Right.
Same with the pitcher, we know these guys in the minor league, they make pennies, right? And if you said, hey, I need you to float a few extra curveballs out there and whatever, I think those are the ways that you rig games, and I have to look at it from an integrity standpoint that, but football, everybody, I think, likes to have your mentality of, oh, the refs are this, or the refs are always the ones to blame. They're the ones rigging it. So,
well, yeah. My buddy said this one time. He goes, I don't care if you bet sports. He goes, just make sure you are on the right side of the fix.
It's the only way to win.
I know, exactly. What's the most that you've ever won in gambling? And on the flip side, the most that you have ever lost?
Oh, yeah. I actually, we visited.
I like that reaction when it's like, that's like PTSD. that is your Vietnam. That is your Vietnam right there for that when you go, I remember that day. And you can probably remember the sports book that you were sitting in or the couch that you were sitting on and the game where everything unraveled.
Yeah. I probably haven't lost a ton on sports betting, but I probably lost a ton just gambling in general. We visited Resorts World a couple weeks ago. We stayed down there for a couple nights and probably had one of my best kind of excursions out there at the roulette table. Probably we popped off on 20 a couple times, so walked away with a few thousand and a quick couple rolls. But I think a couple years ago I lost, I don't know, for me, probably bigger money, around 3,000-4,000 on a Super Bowl weekend in Laughlin.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Your old man puts together that fun trip every year.
Yeah. So usually I go a little bit too much in that weekend, and I think it was maybe the year before the Falcons lost that halftime lead that they were up 28-3. I think it was
against the Patriots.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that. Now, what's your right now a good futures bet for the NFL? Is you're looking at the season and you see what teams have what in place, and it's hard. Obviously, you've only seen 3 stupid preseason games, and most teams haven't played anybody in those games.
Yeah.
Right now, I think the odds-on favorite, as we record this here, leading into the opening weekend of the NFL season, Kansas City seems to be at the top of the list.
Yeah.
What teams, if you had to put some, if you're like, look, I'm not going to just bet the Chiefs. Say, give me 3 or 4 teams that you could see good value in throwing a few bucks at to win either the conference championship or the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think, the NFL is tough because there's those top teams. I think if you're saucy enough, looking at the NFC East, it's a toss-up, right? I think you could probably take a look at maybe Washington. They seem like maybe they're going to be a little bit more competitive this year. But that division, you could be, with the extra game this year, you could be sitting like, 1-6 and still have a chance to win that division at the end of the year.
Right.
So Washington could be a little sneaky play.
To win the NFC championship or
maybe the NFC East. I think I've seen a few guys that have come out and said, there's some, if you get the right number, I'm not sure what they're at right now to win the NFC. You never know what could happen there. I think there's a lot of hype around like the 49ers this year. The NFC West is going to be a good division too. I kind of like Arizona. I know they kind of underperformed last year, but the addition of J.J. Watt, I think, just brings that leadership to that team that maybe they don't have right now. But, Murray is electric. Cliff, he's a smart coach. So I like how they can, kind of each and every week change it up and bring some things that we haven't seen. So Arizona is a team that I would be looking at as well. Everybody's so high on the 49ers that it seems like it's setting up for them to have a shitty year. The Dolphins could be another team. They're, Brady's out of that division. I know Josh Allen is kind of rolling those Bills up and down the streets, but the Dolphins could be promising a little bit this year. But if you're real saucy, I suppose you take the Lions to go winless.
Oh, God. Seriously? Why do you we get so close to the end, and I have all kinds of faith in you as a human, and you throw the Lions in. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put I'm going to empty my SEP IRA. I'm going to dump it. I'm going to take equal chunks of Arizona, Washington, Miami. And I'm going to put $5 on the Lions just because I want to see the look on the guy's face at the sports book when I hand him $5 and say, put this on the Lions to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Those are probably the top. I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's
fun. This will be fun to go ahead and throw this on there because, and then I'm going to circle back with you towards the end of the season.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because you know what? Listen, anything can happen. Nobody thought the Buccaneers were going to win the Super Bowl when they were 7-5.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Injuries, you don't know. The year's so long, right? And now they got an extra game, so much could happen between now and then. But I generally, if I want to build like a field book on some futures, I usually wait a few weeks, kind of let the first few weeks play out.
Right.
Let the lines kind of reshape themselves and then look for some value each week. And maybe, you're betting a few more teams towards the middle of the year where you can, hope to catch one and do a conference game.
Now, college football. Anybody that you are liking right now? Obviously, Alabama's a favorite to win all the time because they just destroy everybody in their path, unless there's that rogue team that somehow pulls it out. Is there anybody outside of an Alabama that you would say 2 or 3 teams that you would say there would be good value and maybe throwing a couple bucks at as a futures bet to win?
Yeah, I mean, for the college, for the playoff, obviously Bama. I thought Georgia looked okay last night. I think Clemson maybe's in a different era now.
Yeah.
They did not look very good last night. You know, Ohio State was a little sluggish too against Minnesota that other day. You know, Michigan handled Western pretty good. But
deal.
then you look at like Wisconsin. I think there was a lot of hype around Wisconsin this year, and they laid an egg as well. You know, UCLA I think is going to catch some eyes. So I think probably if you were looking for a good number, you're probably going to miss it now. But you know, Oklahoma, I don't think so with how they played against Tulsa. The thing about college football is 1 week can kind of destroy your season quick.
Oh,
so.
yeah. How Oklahoma just barely eked out that win against Tulane stunned me.
Yeah. And that was a game that
wow.
was supposed to be in Tulane and got moved over because of the hurricane. So,
yeah. So you would have thought, if anything, Tulane would have been just completely rattled and, you know, obviously concerned about their families back home in Louisiana and being concerned. And they came out there and they looked really solid against a very good team.
Yeah, and you look at like, I mean, we could see a kind of a different year. I think a ton of FCS teams won. Like Washington lost last night. We know UNLV lost a close one against Eastern Washington, which is let's give them a brand new stadium, right, and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you know, it's hard to stray away from Bama. Ohio State.
So you're saying I'm going to put down Bama? I'm going to put Ohio State.
Yeah, I think Georgia.
UCLA.
Yeah, if they're going to have to win pretty much every game and do it in a pretty good fashion. So the way that they handled an SEC team last night when LSU, I think gives them a good leg up. And we know what Chip Kelly can do, right? I mean, we saw him at Oregon all those years. So It seems like maybe this is the year they hit their stride a little bit. It's whether or not the committee likes it, right, at the end of the year. So, yeah, I think if you're looking for a flyer like UCLA, do I think they can beat Bama? No, but they maybe beat like Georgia or Ohio State if one of those teams beats Bama.
Right.
But, you know, Georgia, they could be another one that to look at. We'll see.
So you're saying your playoff, your 4 right now, if I had to guess based on what we're talking about here right now, you're saying Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, and UCLA.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. You know, UCLA is probably a pretty long toss there, but Clemson's got to be out of it now, I think. Even if they run the table, I mean, they scored 3 points, right? If I'm not mistaken, last night. So Georgia, yeah, I think Georgia is maybe the team that could hang with Alabama the most.
Yeah.
We'll see. Ohio State, can't count them out either.
Now, so Ohio State. Oh yeah, Ohio State's always in the mix, which saddens me.
Yeah. But I actually think we're going to see a little bit more parity this year in college football. I mean, Michigan State, they looked okay. So it should be good as long as teams stay healthy. Don't have to forfeit any games. I think that's your key thing. I think that's the thing.
No, exactly. Yeah, last year with the pandemic restrictions and everything that went down, that was just completely off the charts. Now, final question here.
Yep.
You got Lions winning the NFC, not even the Super Bowl. The Lions win the NFC, or Britney Spears goes to jail. Which happens first?
Golly.
You're really thinking this hard on this? Okay.
My wife's been pretty obsessed with Britney lately. She's been watching all those documentaries. So I'm trying to wonder if her dad could maybe pull something to put her in jail quicker than the Lions winning. I guess I'd say the Lions winning. I think that could happen sooner. Eventually,
sooner. Okay.
Eventually, Green Bay, Minnesota, and Chicago, they're all just going to be really terrible in a couple years. So unless Britney does something drastic, but she seems to want to be out of the limelight a little bit more. She just wants her money and to take a hike.
You know, you are spoken like a true Detroit optimist, my friend.
Hey, we haven't lost the game yet this season, so
I know. This is the best part about going into any football season as a Lions fan. You go, hey, we haven't lost one yet.
We haven't lost one yet. There's still a chance.
Jeremy Hines, I can't thank you enough for your time. It's going to be a fun football season. Appreciate you being here. Jeremy Hines with Metric Gaming. And again, your Arizona-Washington 49ers, Miami Dolphins. Throw some money on them and throw $5 on the Lions too.
There you go. Always.
Thanks again, buddy.
It was a real pleasure.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to A Drink with Derek. Find out when Derek is appearing near you by checking out DerekRichards.com. See you next time for A Drink with Derek.